Morning, everyone. Just waiting for a few more people to attend. I see everyone's drip feeding in, and we'll just start and kick off in just a second. Just slow it up. What's the time? Okay. Right, I think we'll start now, if that's okay. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is our latest Essex Health Series webinar. And this morning we're focusing on understanding the benefits of physical activity on young people's mental health, and we have some fantastic speakers lined up for you today. Over the past 2 years, children have spent long periods off from school, at home, away from friends, and unable to access clubs and everyday activities that have supported their physical and mental well-being. And with uncertainty over what future changes we all may face, the everyday pressures and challenges that children are experiencing are varied, especially as individual and family circumstances may have changed. What we are certain of, though, is that physical activity and a physically active lifestyle, when paired with other healthy habits, can have a huge positive outcome for our mental well-being, even from a young age. The latest data from the Active Life survey from Sport England tells us that our active children report higher levels of happiness, and they're also less likely to feel lonely. So it reinforces that really important need for us all to pull together and ensure that there are as many fun, safe and exciting opportunities to be physically active for our children and young people as possible. This month, Active Essex released our 2-year implementation plan, which outlines our commitments towards the Fit for the Future, the 10-year strategy for physical activity and sport in Essex, Southend and Thurrock. Children and young people is one of our 5 strategic priorities, and working collaboratively with partners to improve our children and young people's mental well-being is one of our key focuses. Today, we have the pleasure from hearing from some of our partners and their amazing efforts and insights into their work, supporting and empowering children and young people in Essex. Today, we're joined by Leanne Canning, who is the Emotional Wellbeing and Mental Health Coordinator for Essex County Council's Education, Social, Emotional and Mental Health Strategy Team. Very long name there, just about stumbled through it. And Leanne is going to share with us today some really key data about the current mental health needs and trends, what the strategy team are doing about it, and as well how physical activity fits in with all of that. We're then going to hear from Nikki Smith and Kerry Edwards, who are co-directors from Chatfast. Chatfast works with like-minded groups and organisations to provide exercise and activity programmes as an intervention recovery tool for poor mental health. And then our third speakers are Kate Noakes and Vicky Stavrinos, who are co-directors at Project Me, our second double act of the lineup today. Project Me aims to help young people explore how physical activity and awareness of promoting positive mental health can have an advantage to their self-esteem through interactive programmes. So as always with our Essex Health series, we'll be sharing all our presentation slides after the event. And we'll also be hosting a Q&A after our speakers have presented. So please do use the chat function, the Q&A function, to post any questions you have through the duration, and then we'll host a Q&A at the end. So that's it from me for now. So without further ado, I'd like to pass over to Leanne. Leanne, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. And Leanne's going to kick us off.
Thanks very much, Lee. You're absolutely right. My title is long. You did very well. You did really well delivering it. Imagine how I have to do that every day. So yeah, just to remind you all, because that was a lot. My name is Leanne Canning. I am an emotional wellbeing and mental health coordinator, and I sit with the SEMH strategy team, which is part of the education team at Essex County Council. We're a very small team with my manager, Steve Whitfield. I have a colleague, Beth Brown, currently on maternity leave, so we're a man down, and so yeah, really small team, but small but mighty. We're working hard to try and make a difference for our young people. And what we do is we are responsible for the policy and the approach that we share with education settings across the county. So we listen to the themes that are coming up in our schools and settings and try and support them in addressing those. So to give you some context about what's going on in Essex and how we're making some of those decisions about what we focus on, Cooth, who offer a service for us in Essex, they're one of our commission services, provided a report for us very recently, this is 2021 data, about what's going on locally, so that we could better understand the issues that are coming up for our young people. And you can see here that the black numbers at the bottom are the national trends, and the blue numbers at the top are the Essex-based trends. You can see how we differ from the national picture, as well as just what's going on locally. So physical activity does lend itself to many of these, but I think in particular, sleep difficulties as a theme is obviously a significant issue, with 165% rise in this concern from Cooth. And that's a much bigger concern locally than it is appearing to be nationally. So something we really need to draw some focus on in Essex. And aspirations, I think also lends itself really well to this conversation, because we know that physical activity, games and sports can really help with aspirations and goal setting. So and equally, these are two of the most concerning pieces of data that we have here. So really great to be joined with people today who can think about how physical activity can make a difference in these areas and contribute to that wider work. Could we have the next slide, please, Mel? So a little bit more data for you here. Again, the black number is the national data and the blue is the Essex-based information that we have. So I think, again, physical activity can act as a vehicle for these concerns as well, particularly the sense of belonging and the friendship concerns. We know that, again, games and physical activity can provide that sense of community for people of all ages, and we think that that could lend itself really well for supporting friendships with people you have things in common with, shared interests, and for young people who might join clubs or sports groups, for example. They can really get that sense of community and belonging there. And again, the sense of belonging does seem to be more of a concern locally than perhaps the national picture is presenting. So something we really want to focus on for our Essex young people particularly. And then the third piece of data that we have from Cooth, on the next slide please, Mel, is they've reported the forums and activities that are having the most engagement from Essex young people. And I think this provides us with a little bit of insight as to what's important to young people right now and what themes we can build on. So, for example, the top activity that young people in Essex engaged in was about making their own coping box. And I think this is really useful for us to know that that's what they're interested in, that's what they're drawn to, and how physical activity can fit into our coping box, into our self-regulation strategies. I think that's it tells us that that's the kind of help they're looking for, that they're seeking. And again, the forum around using creativity to release stress, I think again, physical activity in a creative sense, you know, movement, dance, all those kind of physical activity, creative arts, that there's clearly a appetite for this type of provision and support for young people right now, because that is what they're telling us that they're engaging in more than others. Okay, so what are we doing about this? I'll go on now to tell you a little bit about the work of our team and the board that we report to. We've identified these 6 outcomes with children and young people themselves from Essex. There are a few forums that we work with really closely. They've helped us to identify these 6 outcomes as the priorities that we as a local authority should be working towards. And if they told us that if we put things in place to support these well enough, we will make a difference. We'll start to chip away and young people will feel valued. I think these outcomes lend themselves really well to the benefits of physical activity. I don't think anyone could disagree with any of that. And I think they lend themselves well across the board, really, whether you're a provider of a physical activity group or not. Everyone will want these things for our young people. So if we can all push together towards these outcomes, surely between us we can make the difference that we need. So we appreciate that there is a huge amount of information out there currently about children's mental health, and it only seems to have become more of a minefield since COVID, because people are, you know, really seeking that support. The stigma around mental health seems to have been dropped a little bit because it's become a shared space. You know, everyone has struggled with their emotional well-being on some level over the last 18 months. So there is a wealth of information out there, but sometimes that can feel a little bit overwhelming, because where do you start? How do I know what's good and what's not good? How do I know what's for me, what's not for me? So we've been trying to make a little bit of sense of this. So we go on to the next slide, please, Mel. What we have done, we have a school-facing platform, a website called the Essex Schools Info Link, which some of you might be familiar with. This is school-facing, but because we're talking about the theme of social emotional mental health, we know that this applies broader than that. So there is information here that is useful for those of you who are not based in schools or colleges or early years setting, but perhaps work in a different capacity to support young people and families. So we launched these new InfoLink pages in September of this year. It replaced a previous portal, which was called the Emotional Wellbeing and Mental Health Portal. It's now called the Social, Emotional and Mental Health Portal. The reason for that name change is because we are the SEMH strategy team, so it's the SEMH portal. So we wanted to really make sure people understood the connection. And it has become our go-to place for resources in this area. So if as a team we produce something, or we find something produced by someone else that we think, do you know what, that's valuable, that's useful, we think schools and settings should know about this, we put it here. So this is a really nice starting place if you're trying to look for what's going on in this area across county for schools and for children and young people. So we go to the next slide. I want to introduce you to some of the things we have developed so far. So we work with partners from health services, from social care, from public health, from the CCGs. We've got a strategic board of people who come together and say, right, here are the things that are coming up. What can we do about it? So some of the guidance and resources that we've produced have covered these themes. So the reducing risk of suicide guidance, for example, has been around for quite a few years now, but that's had a massive update, a real shift in focus around the language used in there, and a supportive webinar to help people understand what that guidance is there to do. So that's a really good example of some collaboration. The main one that I want to draw attention to is the common language for emotional wellbeing and mental health. This underpins the language that we use when we're talking about emotional well-being, because sometimes historically there's been quite a behaviourist approach to emotional well-being. We might talk about young people melting down or kicking off, and actually that kind of language doesn't produce a huge amount of empathy and puts a little bit of blame and shame on the young person themselves. Where if we change our language to a more empathetic one, and understand that behaviour is communication, that child is telling us on some level that they're experiencing stress, we are more likely to respond with empathy and to put in support for that young person. So that is the one that I would ask you to, if you were going to look at anything of what I've said today, please start there. It really does underpin the approach that we are taking with everything that we do. And you can find that on the InfoLink pages under the orange button that's labelled Essex Guidance and Let's Talk Resources, because all of our new resources are under the brand of Let's Talk, because we really want to promote that just talking and listening can make the biggest difference sometimes. We've also talked about how to support engagement for families that find it difficult to engage in support that's offered. There's some guidance about schools working together with partner providers. So this might, for example, Active Essex would be a partner that can go into a school and offer support. There's a very simple document there that says, well, here's what the school can do, here's what Active Essex could do to really make that relationship work and get the best out of the collaboration. And we're currently working on some guidance around disordered eating and support for families in knowing what's out there. So just to give you a flavour of some of the themes we're working on. With the next slide, please, Mel. So there were some themes that arose specifically through COVID. These themes were emotional wellbeing in general, as we've already touched on, loneliness and isolation of young people, particularly during the lockdowns when they were at home and not able to go to school or their usual shared activities, disordered eating, which is something we're working towards now, and self-injury. So these were themes that were coming up over and over again, being raised by our schools across the county and also by our health services as themes that are coming up in conversations with young people. So if we go to the next slide, what we produced were 4 very simple posters that are designed for staff, for the workforce. So these aren't for young people necessarily, these are to support the workforce. That if a young person is telling us or they're showing us that there's a concern in this kind of thing, this empowers the workforce to know what they can do about that, and not feel overwhelmed by their concern for those young people. So these were sent to all schools across the county to put up in staff rooms, but they are, and I think they're also put in all of the youth service bases as well as some other partners, but they are available to download off the info link. If you wanted those, you can download them as PDFs and print them off and put them up in your staff areas if you think that would be useful for your staff to support their young people they're working with. Okay, could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So as I've mentioned, we are aware that there is a huge amount of provision and resources out there under the theme of emotional wellbeing and mental health. We have a very primitive Excel spreadsheet that we hold internally within our team. It's got close to 600 listings on it, just under this area of need. So never mind all the other types of additional needs that a young person might have. Just social, emotional and mental health, nearly 600 provisions are listed. This is available to anyone with an essex.gov email address. It's on Microsoft Teams. You can search for it and request access. If you're a provider in one of our partners, such as a health service, you can request guest access by coming to me, but we're not making it hugely widely available because it's not a particularly smart document. It's full of human errors because myself and my colleague Beth created it ourselves based on the information. However, what I can reassure you is that the information we have is going into the new local offer website, which is currently being developed and should be available in June of next year. So all of this rich information we have about what's out there will be available to education settings and to families going forward in a much more user-friendly way than what we have pulled it together here. We know that the current local offer website isn't always easy to navigate, and that's why it's being we're starting from scratch a new one that is much more intuitive and makes it much more easy to find what you're looking for going forward. We do promote some things, services or initiatives that are going on. We have the Education Essex Bulletin, which is a weekly newsletter that goes to all schools and settings in the county. If you have something going on that you want to raise awareness of with schools and settings, that is how you get the message out to all of them. So that, a really, really brilliant way of communicating what's going on. And some of the things we share might be the UM's Instagram page, for example. So young people we know spend a lot of time on social media. It's their go-to social place now. It's not like when we were kids and, we were on the playground and then down the park and then we didn't see them or speak to them until the next day. Things have changed. So the UM's Instagram is there to put some positive mental health messages in what can sometimes be quite a dark place for our young people. So that's an example of one of the things we might promote. We also have a shared newsletter with the Healthy Schools team, which is run by the Essex Child and Family Wellbeing Service. And that's another way that we get out key messages about what we think would be useful to schools, what's going on, what help can you access. So if you have information that you want to share with schools and settings, those are really good places to start. Go to the next slide. Some of you might have heard of trauma perceptive practice, shortened to TPP. This is a training offer this is training that we give to all schools across the county, and you can see some data on the screen here. I'll just make a little bit of sense of that for you. There are 550 schools across Essex, and 330 of them have already engaged in TPP. And then you can see it's divided up into the 4 areas of the county as well. There are hundreds of early year settings across the county. There's about 150 missing from the data there. And we have about 50 early year settings who have already engaged in TPP. Now, our goal was to get round to all schools in Essex, all 553 of them by 2025. And we only started in January 2020. So you can see we've made a huge dent in that. We're well on our way, and we're really pleased that we're in a position to get early year settings on board as well. The trauma receptive practice training is about understanding emotional well-being and supporting behaviour. So it really is that broader understanding of why children behave the way they do, and helping staff in schools and settings to understand that it isn't about them being naughty, it isn't about them being manipulative or purposeful, it's about them having a need that we need to meet. So TPP is embedded in the Healthy Schools accreditation now, which is great. Schools can use TPP to gain a trauma-informed award. We've also started to introduce TPP to early career teachers. And we do have, for those of you that are interested in finding out more about it, an abridged version, because it is a huge training package. But we have a abridged version, which is 4.5 hours split over 3 weeks, that anyone who is not in a school or setting but works with schools, children or families and want to know more about this, you can access the key messages for free. Again, if you go onto our info link pages and look under the SCMH training tab, you'll be able to find how to book onto that. The next dates are in February and March, I believe. We're also piloting an adapted version for families so that families can receive this learning too. And we have an annual conference. We've had 2 so far, and they've been really successful and enjoyable. Now, of course, TPP can't do it all. That's just one piece of training out there for schools and settings. And what we're pulling together is a picture of what other training is out there. And we've got 9 elements of TPP, and you can see those listed across the top here, split into 9 training sessions. But what's hanging off those underneath is other training packages that complement the themes of TPP and really support the messages that we're trying to get out there about emotional wellbeing and mental health. The ones in orange, I appreciate this is small and you can't read it very well. It's just meant to demonstrate what's going on in the bigger picture. But the orange ones are those that are training packages that are owned by Essex County Council. The pink ones are those that are owned by our partners or people that we work really close with, or that we know are quality assured and we would happily signpost our schools and settings to. And the grey ones are the ones that are proposed. Mel, you're sharing your whole screen here, and we're seeing lots of, thank you. Yeah, lots of feeling about thank you. And the grey ones are training packages that are proposed or in development. So you can see how if schools or settings want to know a little bit more about self-regulation, which is the red one, the 8th one along, you can see that we've got 3 places that we can signpost them to. And one of those is one that's currently being piloted by Active Essex about the benefits of movement for self-regulation. So you can see that we're really trying to promote those wider messages. And again, if you offer some training you think fits with TPP, please make sure we know about it. We will signpost our schools to access it if they ask for more information about any of our themes. If we could have the next slide, please. So just to also let you know that following lots of publicity recently around senior mental health lead training in schools and settings, that's come into place this year now. We're really pleased to share that the National Network of Mental Health Leads website is now hosting bookings for face-to-face courses in Essex, and these are being delivered by Essex-based trainers, so people who would really understand what's going on for schools and settings and can really personalise it to our context. So if you are a school or setting representative here and you haven't checked this out yet, please talk to your senior leadership team about how you're going about allocating your mental health lead within your school. It's like a safeguarding lead. Every school will be expected to have one. And hopefully you'll be able to book onto some training dates that are delivered by Essex practitioners. So that is a real whistle-stop tour. I thank you very much for listening. I hope there's been something useful here, and I'll look forward to the discussion towards the end of the session, and hopefully there'll be some really lovely questions and yeah, lots of good discussion.
Wow, Leanne, well done firstly on the TPP programme as well, getting through that many schools with being a man down as well. It's a fantastic.
And through COVID.
And through COVID, of course, not to mention so many takeaways for the audience today. And I think particularly for me, what stands out is that use of language.
Yeah.
And just so many takeaways, like the up-to-date information is just so key now. That lots of aspiration, the school issues, sleep difficulties being kind of on the key rise. And actually, I think there's probably a number of people on the call that work in physical activity that can probably straight away think, oh yes, some of our interventions projects, things that we're working on with children and young people can have a real benefit towards some of them negative trends. So thank you so much. Leanne, like I say, if anyone has any questions for Leanne, please pop them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. But we'll move swiftly on next to our next speakers. So we're going to hear now from Nikki Smith and Kerry Edwards from Chatfast, and they do a brilliant job supporting children and adults and use exercise and activities to improve participants' mental, physical and social well-being. So Nikki, Kerry, welcome. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you, Lee.
We're going to pass straight over to you.
Wonderful. So I'm Nikki, and you may already know me as one of the locality officers for the Essex Activate programme, but I'm also a director of a company called Chatfast, and I'm here with my fellow director, Kerry, to tell you a bit more. Chatfast became a community interest company in January this year, after the organisation it was embedded in closed due to the financial restraints of COVID. Before that time, Chatfast had successfully been operating for 2 years. Our main focus at Chatfast is to use physical activity and exercise as an intervention, coping and recovery tool for poor mental health. We do this by providing a calm and safe environment with small groups and a support team made up of peer support workers, young volunteers and a young person's counsellor. Next slide, please, Mel.
So we all know that poor mental health has a massive negative impact on us as individuals, families, friendships, groups, organisations and the country as a whole. And we all know that many of those struggling do not receive the help that they need. And we all know that the problem's getting worse. But there are some simple remedies that are proven to really help. Participation in regular physical activity can increase self-esteem and reduce stress and anxiety. Social interaction and peer support can boost confidence and improve quality of life. Chatfast is here to help join those dots between those struggling with their mental well-being and the significant benefits of physical activity. For those that would normally find activity inaccessible due to personal anxieties, diagnosed conditions, financial burdens, or any other reasons, Chatfast is here to help remove those barriers so that participation, interaction and support are readily and easily available to everyone.
Next slide, please.
And for youth, we aim to go one step further. We aim to educate children and young adults about mental wellbeing and coping techniques, to show them that they can monitor and manage their own mental wellbeing, to be aware of how they're feeling, to understand their personal triggers, and to develop their own coping techniques so that they are prepared and ready to deal with any bumps along the road that could be detrimental to their mental wellbeing. In the same way that a sports coach will teach exercises and correct technique to minimise physical injury, we aim to empower young people to use exercise and coping techniques to minimise the long-term effect of their mental illnesses. So for youth, our goal is not just participation, interaction and support, but also empowerment.
Next slide, please. So how do we engage young people? Firstly, we run programmes for children aged 5 to 11 years. We run mental wellbeing supported holiday clubs as part of the Essex Activate programme, which involves shorter sessions of 2.5 hours with smaller groups of children to ensure that they are not overwhelmed for those young people living with anxiety. We invite parents and guardians to stay with the young people and help them settle, engage with the other children. And we use peer support, all of who have their own lived experience of poor mental health, and young volunteers to create a safe and comfortable environment. These sessions include physical activity, enrichment activities such as gardening and food education, and we also give the children a hot meal. We are also part of a pilot offering term time after school clubs for 12 weeks. This again follows the same structure as the holiday clubs, but we spend a little bit more time on exploring the different emotions that the children might be experiencing using our little book of Wellbeing Wonders. Next slide, thank you.
A little book of Wellbeing Wonders, as you can see here. This is a 20-page booklet that we produced aimed at 5 to 11-year-olds. The booklet covers 4 main emotions of anger, fear, sadness and worry, with interactive colouring and drawing exercises that aim to get the children thinking about and exploring their emotions, how it makes them feel, and exercising and ideas for things that they can try if any of those feelings are becoming overwhelming. It's proven to be a great starter tool to get children to participate and engage in discussions. Plus, it is something that they're able to take home as a source of reference whenever they need it.
Next slide. The next age group we work with are the 11 to 18-year-olds at our Youth Wellbeing Hub. We are currently operating at the Hermit in Brentwood, and we're starting a new club at Gallywood Youth Centre in the new year. These sessions offer yoga and boxing classes with a drop-in option surrounding the classes, where the young people just stay and chat, they play games, they debate all important subjects, and they drink smoothies. During this time, as we do with the younger children, we also spend some time on educating around mental health and wellbeing.
We have our monthly wellbeing campaign. You can see an example of that on the screen. This covers a whole host of topics, from panic attacks to sleep and insomnia, loneliness and coping with change. The aim being to spotlight different areas each month for discussion via social media and with posters within the Youth Hub. It's great to see the kids taking pictures of these posters every time we put them up, just so we know that we're actually reaching them. We also have the new My Wellbeing book, which is coming really soon, and it follows the success of the My Wellbeing Wonders for the young age group. This book will be a source of reference and ideas for the 11 to 18-year-olds and covers all the topics we've mentioned before, plus some extras such as body image, exam stress, bullying, etc. The key thing about these books is that they are written for the young people and not their parents. So much of the research we have looked at online talks to parents and adults about how they can help their children. These books are about how young people can help themselves. Yes, the books certainly encourage them to talk to adults that they can trust, and they are an invaluable resource for parents supporting their children. But the emphasis is on empowering them to take control of their own mental well-being. Some of those who are attending our groups do not have parents or adults who are able to lead the process on their behalf.
Next slide, please. So I just wanted to touch briefly on the families around the young people we work with. We often find that the parents and guardians who are seeking help for their children are often in need of help and support themselves. Many a time, our young person counsellor has been on hand to talk to the parents or guardians as they drop off and pick up, to offer help, advice and signposting where needed. Chatfast does offer an adult programme consisting of classes, gardening, walks and social groups. So we like to offer the adults places on these to help their well-being, which in turn can help their children. Next slide, please, ma'am.
So since our launch in the lockdown, we have seen many changes. The first youth sessions were virtual yoga and boxing, where coaches and peer support saw many blank screens and held one-way classes with very little feedback and interaction. After a few weeks, with the encouragement of the peer support, those cameras were turned on and the chats began to start. Then came the face-to-face classes, where it was clear many children and their parents felt extremely anxious. At first, some parents would stay to watch, and many of the young people were nervous about participating and would watch from the side. All of which was supported with gentle efforts from the peer support and the Chatfast staff to help them feel more comfortable. Quite quickly, parents no longer would stay and the young people were engaged and participating. We moved from a situation where we were having to organise all the activities to keep them occupied to a place with budding friendships, chatting, and them coming up with their own ideas of things they'd like to do. Unlikely friendships were being formed and some amazing support networks developed, where those experiencing a tough day were receiving reassurance and encouragement from their peers. As well as obviously continuing to support those attending, we found our support began to extend to parents and younger siblings following face-to-face conversations at drop-offs and pickups. We were able to offer them guidance and signposting, plus participation opportunities in our younger age group classes and the adult sessions. So today we find ourselves in a wonderful position where we have developed a wellbeing supported community that looks to support the whole family.
Next slide, please. So we've just pulled some of the quotes out. So that we have a journal at our hub where the kids can write in, and that's passed to parents and our after school club. So this one here from one of our young people at the hub who's just saying that Chatfast has helped socialise and build confidence, and the hub's made them feel overwhelmed and excited. And I just want to pull out some top tips and takeaways for you through these quotes. So for this one, we would encourage you to build your team with young volunteers and peer support workers that have their own experience of poor mental health, because this encourages empathy and understanding as well as building trust. Next slide. So this one, I love going to the youth club because I can do boxing and talk about my emotions, and I made a friend, which is amazing. So again, our top tip for this is to encourage the young people to talk openly about their emotions, but don't force it. If you create that right environment where they feel safe and comfortable, they'll soon open up, which our children do. Next, please. And then here's just some quotes from our parents. Just being thankful and that we've helped their children get through some difficult times, and they're experiencing difficult times themselves, and how comfortable their children have found the sessions when they've been really nervous about leaving them. And my top tip for this is to be aware of that bigger picture. Do the grown-ups need support too? If you can get them support, that will help educate them, then they in turn will educate their young people. We work closely with the Children's Society and the Active Families Together team as part of our holiday offer. And that's a great opportunity to get the whole families working together and produces some real positive outcomes. And that's it from us today. But obviously, if you've got any questions at the end, more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Nikki, Kerry, well done. Excellent presentation, and thank you so much for sharing some of your amazing work over the past months and years. We know you've done some fantastic work in Brentwood in particular for years now. And actually, just to embarrass you, congratulations on recently winning the Active Brentwood Sports Award at the Star of Brentwood Awards evening recently. So excellent job, very well deserved. And thank you as well for sharing some top tips and takeaways for the audience today. I think, like you say, that engaging the whole family and having that whole family approach is so key for some of the work you're doing, and that's why it's having such amazing impact. So everyone, please, if you do have any questions for Nikki and Kerry, then please do put them in the chat. We're going to move on now to our final speaker today. Last but not least, just to make that very clear, we're going to hear now from Kate and Vicky from Project Me. So the team at Project Me delivers some fantastic interventions enabling young people to fulfill their potential by learning practical techniques and strategies so they can future-proof their mental health. And we've worked with Project Me as well for a number of years, and have been lucky enough to support some of their amazing projects, typically in the kind of central Essex area. So Kate, Vicky, over to you.
Hi everyone, thank you for having us. So yeah, here's our first slide coming up. Thanks, Mel. Yeah, hello everyone, I'm Vicky Stavrinos. I'm one of the directors of Project Me, and beside me is my colleague and co-founder Kate Noakes. We're going to spend the next 10 minutes telling you about how we support young people through physical activity and life coaching to empower them to have a greater understanding and awareness of their mental health and well-being, and ultimately how physical activity is a key component to their lifelong healthy habits and lifestyle. Can we have the next slide, please, Mel? So Project Me is a community interest company established in 2018 and incorporated in 2020. And through doing so, we've been able to work with community partners and local authorities to receive funding and provide either full or part funded programs to schools, community groups, etc., making them affordable for either the individual or organisation, which ultimately eliminates one of the core reasons why many tend to shy away from such activities. So a little bit about me. I am and have been a dancer choreographer for over 20 years, and some of you may know my face or know me from being the creative director of Bam Bam Boogies, which is a dance company based in Chelmsford. And my role in Project Me is to deliver the physical aspect and help the next generation understand the importance of a healthy body to future-proof their well-being. And I primarily do this through dance and fitness.
Thanks, Vic. And hi everyone, I'm Kate Noakes. I am a life coach and director of Project Me. I've worked with young people in schools and colleges and community groups everywhere across Essex over the last 20 years. My background is, for those who might remember, the Connections Days and Careers and Employability and Skills at Essex County Council for around 15 years. And so for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been working as a life coach using NLP tools and techniques for both one-to-one sessions with young people and adults and group settings for our young people at Project Me. And also as an independent coach to help others to make positive changes in their lives. Our programmes at Project Me are aimed at 9 to 19-year-olds, and we offer a variety of programmes, including our main one, which is called Reset and Grow. And we also offer mindfulness and yoga programmes and our My Amazing Mind and Body programme for primary school age children. But today we're going to refer mostly to our teenage programme, Reset and Grow. But you can find out more about all of the programmes and how they run and what they might look like in terms of you working with us in your groups or schools on our website and social media pages. We work with groups of young people once a week for 90 minutes over a 6-week period. We provide them with a safe space for them to build friendships and self-esteem and confidence, whilst giving them the opportunity to increase participation in physical activity and sports and improve their overall fitness for the long term. Each young person will also receive a one-to-one life coaching session a couple of times over the 6 weeks. So they have that space to explore any issues and set some real good goals and targets away from the group, because sometimes they just need that time just to kind of talk on their own. And just to kind of, put it into context, we are a product of what we teach and share. We absolutely live and breathe our values. And for those who know us or have had young people experience our programs, we know that we love what we do because we do what we love. We're most definitely an outcome of the tools and techniques that we practice and teach to the young people ourselves. And as leaders are continuously developing ourselves so that we can give that energy back through the experience of our program content and delivery. The young people therefore really engage well, and we retain a high number of participants over the 6 weeks, which we're really proud of. And we see that they become almost like their own little experiment, and they start to see the difference over the weeks as they come to us in both how they're behaving and connecting with other people in the group and outside, but also how they feel. This is the difference in both their minds and their body. And this is a great way then for them to form lifelong habits. And as they're choosing to want to engage, want to do the activity and gain more of an understanding as to why and how it's helping them to kind of live their day-to-day lives more easily. And they tell us that this is a completely different way, different approach. Instead of being taught it in a classroom or being told by their parents, they like to learn for themselves and experience that kind of benefit. And so for the 200 plus young people that have come through our programs across Essex, who've had experience of our programs, many of them continue to instill those disciplines and habits through the program and beyond.
So as Kate mentioned, what makes our program different is that we bring a holistic approach. All our sessions are interactive through movement and discussion, and we teach them about how their body works and how being active, etc., helps the impact of their brain. We give them challenges and show them how their fitness can improve over weeks, as well as give them ideas on how to stay active, even if they're not a particularly active person. The aim is to show them how the experimental approach to life brings life to the facts about how physical activity helps good mental health. So alongside this, each participant will meet for their one-to-one life coaching sessions with Kate during the 6 weeks, so that they can really delve into their own goals and explore any personal issues that they feel they would prefer to bring up on their own in a one-to-one situation. We also give them growth work, not homework, which are just short exercises to complete in between the sessions. And again, this just reinforces the message and is also a great way for them to be able to share with their family back home what we've been doing with them each week. We really encourage them to discuss this at home if they can, with who they live with, to start to build that network around them for support. We often hear stories of young people getting their parents to join in for a run with them. There are things that we do in our sessions, be it squat challenging or even a dance routine, and it helps them create the ripple effect, and so we can spread the message. But we could spend all day talking about what we do, but we wanted to show you a little video of one of our students that we've previously worked with at Great Baddow High School. She was actually one of our first students that came to our first programme at Great Baddow High School in 2019. So if we've got the next slide, you're going to learn a little bit about, the one after that one, sorry, learn a little bit about Piper. So originally she came to us, really shy girl. She wasn't particularly active at all, and she didn't really engage in any discussion within our sessions. But since then, I'm gonna just let her talk, and then I'll talk after about her. But yeah, here we go.
I signed up to Project Me with the intention of learning some tools and techniques to help me maintain a positive mental health and to gain some confidence, and I can safely say that the 6-week programme that I did definitely delivered on that. My favourite part of the course was definitely the dance aspect, is even though myself I'm not a dancer and I'm still not now, it taught me the key benefits of exercise and what it does for your mental well-being, and that's still something I'm actively engaging in now, as after the course finished I went and joined a netball club, which is something I would never have had the confidence to do, and it's still something I'm absolutely loving now and actively pursuing it further and using it as a positive influence on my mental health, just like I was taught to do. I can safely say Project Me definitely had a huge impact on me and was a big part of my journey from a very shy and unsure 14-year-old to the 17-year-old I am now, who's absolutely smashing it in life and using it my own experiences to help other people who are also on that same journey. I would definitely recommend Project Me.
So thank you to Piper for doing that for us. She is still actively in contact with us. She's still partaking in her weekly netball sessions. She is being an amazing role model to her school. Again, ripple effect, spreading that message for us. And that's something for future-wise with with Project Me, that we are trying to get ambassadors on board to help with us and spread that message.
Next slide, thanks. And yeah, as Leanne said, obviously at the beginning, our young people's mental health has changed incredibly over the last couple of years, and in the experience I've had of working with young people for that long, 20 years, it's definitely changed a lot. And we have also noticed a number of trends as emerging, as you can see here. For the young people who come to us feeling these ways and all of the other ways that Leanne has explained earlier, we appreciate it. It's such a huge step, and we're really grateful that they've taken that chance, given us that chance really to provide that space for them to see that they do have opportunities, and try and give them a bit of a toolkit for them to dip into and use when needed. And of course, exercise is just one of them, one of the most powerful ones that we can share with them. And we also introduce them to things like mindfulness, journaling, and understanding their limiting beliefs and fears, so that we can support them to take back some control and get help for whatever might be going on for them.
So that last bullet point there is about increased awareness of body image, and something that I've experienced post-COVID with young people was helping them with their weight and body image issues. A few gains more than double their weight, making it uncomfortable for them to partake in an activity that they were once so confident in, and ultimately this destroyed their self-esteem. trends within social media, also gave them ideologies of the perfect body, which is great if you have the resources and support to make a goal for yourself. But I think we all understand and agree on the fact that this isn't real life, and part of our program is to help them understand that and discuss what is realistic for them. So we're going on to the next slide. So this takes you through a roadmap journey of our 6-week Reset and Grow program, through understanding the mind to comfort zones, all the way down to visualizing. And each week we take them on a journey and cover different modules, if you'd like to call it, on how we can achieve better mental and physical well-being through all of those different subjects there. For example, Comfort Zone Week, we will explain how we're all different confidence-wise and on a particular activity, and subconsciously what we would do during, prior, even after, a little exercise that I'd do with them is get them into a freestyle circle. So it could be to showcase a little bit of a routine dance that we've learnt that week, or it could be speaking in front of the said group, which to some may feel okay, but to others not so okay. But by the 6th week, everyone would have built up enough confidence to do it, and everyone would have learned something about their fellow participant, or even danced with them. So we encourage the young people thereafter to sustain that feeling. And normally after an exercise where they've been doing a heart pumping activity, I would get them to do an exercise where they place their hand on their heart, they close their eyes and visualize the goodness that the exercise has done for them, blood pumping, oxygen traveling, and immune protecting, etc. And towards the end of the program, signpost them to an external activity provider, as you saw with Piper there with her netball. Both Virgin Active and Jump Street in Chelmsford have been kind enough to be community partners with us as an example of sustainability, but also, of course, Bam Bam Boogies, which provides not only dance and fitness opportunities, but dance, performance and education within a social and non-competitive atmosphere.
And Vicky and I have developed our programs over the last few years, and we're continually changing them depending on the need of the group. And that's why we definitely work with our young people and our communities, as well as insight from research, to make sure that the program provides what's needed and the impact is seen. Our evaluations from the young people who have participated is showing us this is working, which we're really proud of, and also really pleased for the young people. And we want to continue to make a difference in the lives of young people across Essex, to bring an awareness to their emotional intelligence and their physical abilities combined, so that through sport and exercise they can continue to make great choices for their health and improving their life chances in many ways. And we do this because we truly believe that prevention is better than cure.
So if we could go to our next slide. We'd just like to thank you for being here with us today, and to thank Lee and the whole team of Active Essex for asking us to present to you and being so supportive, including all our funders that have listed there. We thank you so much. It's great to know that we're a part of a wider community who has the best interest of our young people at the forefront of our minds as we look forward to a positive future. And it was so lovely to hear from the other speakers today as well. So thank you so much. And our last slide. Here comes the advertising bit. If you'd like to get in touch with us or speak to us, our website, email and telephone number, social medias are all up there. So please get in contact with us. We'd love to know who else is out there promoting our message, etc., etc. We're all trying to aim for the same goal and the same thing. So happy Thanksgiving Thursday, everybody. Thank you so much.
Vicky, Kate, thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant, and yeah, truly inspiring, all of the work that you're doing. Really, really fantastic. And the video with Piper as well. I mean, yeah, what an amazing young lady, and just what a great future she has ahead of her now, you know, having been part of the program. Really, really great. While I've got you on the floor, actually, I'm going to come to you. We're going to start a Q&A. So if anyone on the webinar has got any questions for our speakers this morning, please just use the Q&A function in the software just to pop your questions in. Kate and Vicky, I'm just going to come to you first, if that's all right, because it's fresh in the mind actually, and I want to use Piper as on the basis for the question, and talk about the ripple effect and ambassadors, and they are so important to all of the work that you guys do and all of our partners as well. But what would you say some of the key ingredients are to help create the pipers that we have, living in Essex?
Sorry, Kelly, what was the last bit of the question? You cut out a little bit on us.
Oh, sorry. What are the key ingredients to help create the pipers that we might have sort of living in Essex?
So something that I've experienced in my time with peers is relation. So I think Kate and I kind of share that kind of experience and relation with the young person. We've been through stuff ourselves and we relate to what they're going through. So having that kind of relationship first off with the young person is quite important, I think. And therefore, if that young person can then express their experience to people their age and share and show how much that, it's a normal thing. We all go through these things, and learn how to share the importance of that. I think that builds trust. So then getting people on board becomes a little bit of an easier aspect, and showing them that it's safe to do so, etc., etc. So we've had a really great response in terms of ambassadorship for our programs with what we do, etc. So it's really nice to see, and hopefully going forward we can grow more of a community with young people, so that they become kind of what we do, really. And it if we're to look at that as a job opportunity, that then becomes work, but doing something that they love and that actually comes from their heart. So that's kind of like what we want to, that's the achievement.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for those top tips and ingredients. There's just been a question put into the chat, so I'll just and it's for both Chatfast and Project Me, in terms of how are participants referred in? So is it through healthcare professionals, or is it self-referral? So if I come to Kate and Vicky first, and to Nikki and Karen.
Yeah, I mean, generally it depends on the group or the organisation. So for example, if it's a school, generally they'll do like maybe an assembly, or kind of just put out information on the way that parents receive information about their after school clubs and things like that. And then I would say probably 99% of the time young people refer themselves because they want to kind of come. Sometimes depending on the type of group or funding that we're working with, it might be that it's a specific type of group that we need to work with. For example, we've been funded by the Police Commissioning to work with young people who are at risk of involvement in gangs and crime and things like that. So obviously that takes a bit more of a kind of referral basis through professionals. So a mixture really, but I would say more so it's young people self-referring.
Yeah, with us, we over the years we've had a few referral routes in. We work closely with the social prescribing team in Brentwood, so we have referrals through that way. We've had referrals through Children's Society and some of the CCG services as well. But like Project Me, a lot of the kids are self-referrals, or their parents see our posts on social media and they think it's a good idea for the children to come in, and then they bring their friends, and it is that community thing. I think there's probably a bit more that schools could do with referring people in, but I think that's a little bit of a journey we're all on at the moment. But hopefully, yeah, word's getting out there on mental health now, and
get your information in the Education Essex Bulletin.
Yeah, absolutely. We've written that down.
Thanks. And actually, Leanne, I was going to ask you as well, because you spoke obviously about the Essex local offer and it being redesigned and redeveloped coming next year, which sounds an amazing opportunity for all of our deliverers, providers, particularly from a sport and physical activity point of view, to really, disseminate all of the fantastic work that they're doing. And so I just wondered, how can people on the call really contribute to that Essex local offer going forwards?
Take the opportunities where Essex County Council are reaching out for feedback and engagement in the development process. If you receive something that says, contribute to the new local offer, do it, because this is your opportunity to improve the design. There are real limitations to the current version that makes it difficult to navigate, makes it difficult to find the provision that might be the best one for the young person. And, you know, anything that you can feed in that shares your experience and how it can be made better, now is the time to do it. I know that they're reaching out to families. I know that they're reaching out to schools and settings. And I know that they're reaching out to providers who are listed on the current local offer to gauge the experience so far. So please do engage when the opportunity comes, because this is the time to make a difference.
Lovely, thanks, Leanne. And I'm just conscious of time, so I'm just going to finish with one question, and I'm just going to keep you on the floor, Leanne, if that's all right. Because we heard a lot from you in terms of the current trends for the key issues and how they're changing. But is there any forecast for what's coming down the line at all? Yeah,
so we're kind of got in the back of our mind a longer term impact on aspirations, particularly for young people who are at points of transition in their life. So older young people who are transitioning perhaps from college onto further education or to university or preparing for adulthood, their kind of key time in their adolescence has been really disrupted, and I know that lots of young people are very worried about what that means for their future. So we've got that on our minds as a potential a longer term impact that we need to watch and make sure we're listening to our young people for what's important to them in this new world. You know, what's changed for them over the last 2 years, how their expectations have been influenced, and how we can empower them to, you know, to still achieve the things they want to, and to let go of the things that perhaps aren't as important anymore, because all of our views of the world have changed, and it's okay for us to roll with the punches and adapt and just really empower young people. So that is something that's on our mind. And then at the other end of the age range, very young children, you know, those opportunities for play, motor skills development, language development, they've been reduced for most of the children who are currently infants, you know, the preschool age children. So we've also got a watch on that from an educational perspective, but also from a social and emotional perspective. You know, play brings about so much skills, so many skills, and their spongy brains have missed a lot of those opportunities over the last couple of years. So that's something we are keeping a watchful eye on, and I expect there'll be lots of development in those areas over the coming years.
Lovely, thank you, Leanne. That's really, really helpful, definitely for everyone on the call, but also for us as well. So yeah, no, that's great. Lee, I'm going to hand back over to you, if that's all right.
Absolutely, thanks, Kelly. And I guess it just leaves me to wrap up today's session, and just to say one last thank you to Project Me, Leanne, and the Chatfast team as well. Thanks so much for sharing all of your insights this morning. I'm sure the audience have taken away so many little snippets that will help improve kind of their knowledge, their practice, really. I think when we talk about mental health, a lot of the time it can be all doom and gloom, actually, but it was really positive today to hear about some really exciting work here from Piper, and how that actually sport and physical activity can have that positive impact on people's lives and their mental well-being as well, especially for children and young people. So thank you very much, everyone, today. We'll be sending out the slides today, so everyone on the call will send them out. And I think our next Essex Health Series event, we're looking at a January date. So we've got everyone's contact details, so we'll be sure to let everyone know when our next session is. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Was it hashtag Thanksgiving Thursday? Wasn't it, Vicky? Something? Yeah, perfect. And hopefully see you all on the call soon. Cheers.
Yeah, bye.